Welcome to my podcast, Worlds Collide. I'm the host of the show, Victoria Daute, and I talk with my international guests here in the show about the experiences they made in their new country versus their home country. Hi there. So today I have Julie from the US, and the cool thing about her is that she took the bike or the tandem from Alabama all the way to Colombia, where she then decided to stay. Yeah, so we talk about that and what happened on the way and what the original plan was, how she ended up where she is now, and yeah, how she managed to stay there and also how she adjusted to Colombia and much, much more. Here it is. Hi, Julie. Thank you for being on the podcast. How are you today?
I'm good, Victoria. How are you?
I'm good too. So I don't know a lot about you, but you sent me that you took your bike all the way down from the US to Colombia and then you decided to stay.
Yeah.
And so where in the US are you from? Just let's start at the beginning.
So it's a little complicated. I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. Then I moved to New York City. And then I moved to LA. Then I didn't like LA, so I moved back. And then I spent 3 years in the Middle East in Dubai. Then I moved back to New York. And then I rode on the bike down to Colombia. So originally I'm from Cleveland. But I spent most of my adult life in New York City before moving.
Okay. Oh, wow. But so you just took your bike to Colombia? That was the plan? Or what was the plan when you started?
The plan was to go a little bit further. The plan was to go all the way down to Ushuaia, the bottom of South America,
Uh-huh.
Argentina, where there are penguins, but
Yeah.
didn't make it that far.
But you made it pretty far, I would say.
Yeah, pretty far.
How long did it take you?
It took me, and I didn't do it alone. It took me and my ex-husband, and that's part of the story too.
Uh-huh.
It took me and my ex-husband a year and 4 months to go from Alabama across and down. And that's with a lot of breaks. There are
Yeah.
people that go from Alaska all the way down to Penguin Town in 9 months. And so we did about half of
What?
that. I don't know how they do it. I am not that fast. People say, wow, you must be so athletic. Not really. I'm a little bit slower. So it took us a year and 4 months to get all the way down.
Okay. Is there a direct bike route?
Not exactly, no. I mean, a big part of it was the Pan American Highway for sure, but a lot of it is,
Mm-hmm.
just figuring it out. I luckily was not in charge of that. So
Yeah, okay.
my
Yeah, I would have been
my
lost.
ex-husband's really good at that. He comes from a long line of ship's captains, so they're really
Uh-huh.
good at all that stuff, and I'm horrible at that. But I'm really good at languages, so I learned Spanish as we were going. So
Oh, you didn't speak Spanish before?
no.
Okay.
So yeah, he did the maps and I did the language.
Okay, and then how come you decided to stay in Colombia?
Well, that's a good question. I was, as we were traveling, when we got to the city Medellin, I just fell in love with the city. Totally fell in love with
Mhm.
the city, the people, the weather. It's called the city of eternal spring. So every day it's about 80 degrees Fahrenheit, and that in Celsius is, I think, about 22 degrees Celsius,
That's
something like that.
perfect.
Yeah. So
Uh-huh.
every day is just this perfect weather. And everyone was just so nice and everyone, seemed so happy. I mean, maybe they're not really, really deep down happy, but everyone's super nice to you. And when you go there, you just feel like you're their like old friend, everybody's just so sweet. And it's not because they're trying to get money from you or anything. It's just people are just like that in
Uh-huh.
general, you know. So we were supposed to be there for a week. And I said, no, 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 we have to stay for 2 weeks. And so we stayed for 2 weeks. And then on the day that we were supposed to leave, we got up, bright and early, 6 a.m. and we were going to be out the door by 7:30. And I couldn't get out of the house until 3 p.m. Um,
Mhm.
because I was so busy talking to the woman whose house it was. I just thought she was so fascinating. She had an Airbnb, but she was also a former professor of nuclear physics.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, as
Yeah.
as you do. And so she
Yeah.
started chattering away and gossiping about this, that, and the other, and this is somebody I'd known for 2 weeks. And it was like in the cartoons where they're dragging somebody out and their nails are just scraping along the floor. It was like,
Yeah.
please
Yeah.
don't leave
It's
me.
like, I don't want to go.
And so when everything kind of fell apart, by that I mean my first marriage, in the
Oh.
south of Colombia, we decided to stop the trip and the marriage.
Oh, no.
I know. So
What a great trip.
it was definitely a journey.
Yeah.
Um, and so I didn't even have to think twice about it. As soon as we stopped, I said, yeah, I'm going back to Medellin by bus. The
Uh-huh. How long is the bus trip?
bus trip was like, I think an hour.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Whatever. Yeah.
A couple hours maybe. Um, and that was it. And I've been here ever since. That was about 6 years ago.
Okay. And your husband or ex-husband, he went back to the US or where he
Actually,
were?
he went back to England. So we were living
Mm.
together in the US, and then he went back to England with the bike, which is a tandem bike.
Ah, you took a tandem. Oh, okay. That's why you took the bus.
Yeah, because there was no bike. So he ostensibly has this tandem still in England somewhere. I don't know. Um,
You framed it
I don't know. He
for the
probably
nice
destroyed
memory.
it. I don't know. Yeah, so that's how I got here, really.
But would you say like visiting and living there is different?
I would say, yeah, definitely. Because visiting, you have a little bit of a more relaxed schedule, obviously. So I would say the biggest difference is you're not dealing with traffic so much. You're not dealing with rush
Mhm.
hour traffic. Um, Whereas when you live here, one way or another, you're going to wind up in rush hour traffic. um,
Yeah.
for sure. And definitely living here, there are kind of pockets of very touristy places, where you can get whatever kind of food you want, and people can speak to you in English if you need to. And then in your day to day life, I mean, it's kind of like it's kind of like New York in a way, in that there's a touristy place, and then there's the place
Mhm.
that's not touristy, the rest of the city where the people who live here prefer to go
Yeah.
usually.
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
so I don't go to the kind of touristy areas as much anymore as I used to. So it's different. You have to speak Spanish, um, and the food is a little different. You have to understand what everything is. Yeah, and it's not so much of this walking around in the sun like when you're a tourist. You just are in this,
Yeah.
constant like, oh, I'm in the sun every day. Whereas here, no, I can't do that. I work, so
Yeah, of
I'm
course.
at a
Yes.
desk, but it's sunny outside.
Sure. But how did you then stay? I mean, was it so easy to get a visa or did you just do border hopping in the beginning or I mean, it's kind of complicated usually.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So many, many people can get a tourist permit upon entry, which is 90 days, and then
Mhm.
can renew that for another 90 days. So you get 6 months right out of the gate from most places. It depends what country your passport is
Mhm.
from. So that covered me for a bit. And then, of course, the panic
Yeah.
set in. Oh my God, how am I
Yeah.
going to stay here?
Yeah.
And so, of course, I hopped on Google and asked people I knew. And everyone said student visa is the easiest and you can study Spanish. And I was like, great,
Okay.
still need that. So my Spanish was by no means perfect and still is not by any means perfect. So I just started taking student visas, taking Spanish classes and getting my student visa. I actually got so many student visas that on my last one, they said no more
N-
student visas.
Oh, okay. How long is usually the visa for?
It depends on how long your program of study is
Ah, I see. Mhm.
and what mood the government is in that day.
I see. Understood. Understood. Mhm.
Because, for example, my last one, the program of study was more than a year, and they gave me a 6 month visa. I said, "Hey, what's going on?"
Oh.
Yeah, so I had to apply for another one. Meanwhile, during a lot of this, I was kind of putting the pressure on my current husband.
Okay,
I was like,
sure.
hey, taking a lot of classes here.
Yeah,
Maybe we could get married, and,
sure.
and eventually we did get married,
Yeah,
just in time for me to get a marriage visa.
perfect. Good timing. It's like not like, hey, when do you want to get married? It's not, no, when do you need to get married? We have until this day.
Yeah, I was like, listen, man, we're on the
Yeah,
line here.
uh-huh. And were you allowed to work with the student visas too?
With a student visa, you're not allowed to work.
Okay.
On the marriage visa, you are. That said,
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure a lot of people are doing it, online.
Yeah, sure. Somehow, right? You need to survive somehow. You don't have a lot of savings all the
Right,
time.
exactly. So a lot of people here are,
Mm-hmm.
digital nomads working online, um, simply because in general the pay is not amazing here in Colombia. I think it's like anywhere, everything kind of balances out. Life is cheap here, but the pay is not so great either. So it depends, how you want to work things out. So most people that come from places like the U.S. or Europe or Australia, or Asia, Middle East, they tend to want to work online because they're able to make a little bit more money. Yeah.
Okay, sure. And then they would just have their job at home,
Mhm.
basically.
Yeah.
This what you did too?
Yeah. So what I did was, when I moved here, I was working as an online options trader. And I was only working, 15, 30 minutes a day. I was making all this money until one day I lost all my money.
Oh, how did that happen?
That happened because I went on vacation. I went to visit family in the Middle East, and we had to go through Paris on the way. So we went. My husband. We were boyfriend and girlfriend at the time. Um,
Mm-hmm.
we went to Paris on the way back, and I don't know. I had too much risk. I had too much risk in the positions, and it started going against me. But I had had so much luck as an options trader. I had over 99% of my transactions were successful, uh,
Mm-hmm.
that I got arrogant. And so I thought, oh, it always turns around. I'll just leave it a couple days. And then I was in the airport waiting for my flight back to Colombia. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'd lost over half. And then the following week, I wound up losing almost everything that I had.
Oh my God.
So that was fun.
Stressful?
But I can't
Yeah.
complain. No, I can't
Yeah.
complain because easy come, easy go. You know what I mean? Like,
Okay, sure.
what can I say? It's not, I didn't put like a ton of money in to begin with. I just was really lucky. So it's not like I blew the money I'd worked on
I
my
see.
whole life to
I
achieve. It
see.
was
I see.
it was
Sure.
really just dumb luck, beginner's luck, easy come, easy go, fine. And I was able to, live a couple of years without really having to work. So, eh,
That
all in
is
all.
okay. So I'm glad you don't take it so hard.
Yeah, now I do. I mean, that week,
Oh
I looked
God,
like I
yes.
was gonna have a heart attack. My skin was gray,
I'm sure.
but now, what can I do? And so I had no idea what I was going to do. Before that, I had been a photographer, and I'd had a photography studio and everything, but I closed that for the trip. And so I thought, well, there's
Hmm.
no way I can just magically build a photo studio right now, and I needed money quickly.
Yeah.
So my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, said, well, why don't you teach English? I said, okay, yeah, I could try that. So I went and got certified, and I started teaching English online. And I did that for quite a while, and it was super fun. I met people from everywhere. So that's how I was able to, work and live, with by teaching English.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. It seems like that's what a lot of people do, teaching English abroad, and then somehow they get stuck.
Yeah. Yeah, some people do the job
Yeah.
first and then they you mean
Uh-huh.
they get stuck in the place or they get stuck teaching English?
They get stuck in the place, I mean.
Yeah. Yeah, they
Yeah.
fall in love with the place. Yeah, I think it's a
Uh-huh.
great job for digital nomads or expats, because it's relatively low stress. You can set your own hours. You get to talk to people from all over the world. It's just a
Yeah.
brilliant job.
Yeah. Do you do this online or? in person?
I did. I just stopped. I'm like, it's amazing, but I quit. Um,
Yeah.
I quit in January to start something new. So I'm working on something new right now.
Okay.
Um, but I was doing it online. I was using the platform italki, which is one of the big ones. That's adults and children. You set your own schedule, set your own hours. You design the lesson plans. So it's super cool. You can work 1 hour a week. You can work 90 hours a week. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah. Oh, and that sounds actually pretty good. So when you first came, did you had like a big culture shock? I mean, you just loved the place apparently. So why did you know why you loved it so much?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. So let's see. First of all, let's talk about culture shock. Yes, I did have
Uh-huh.
culture shock for sure. Luckily, I had kind of a ramp up period because, I came through Mexico. Mexico is not the same as Colombia, obviously, but
Yeah.
there's some similarities, in English, it would be like niceness, cordiality. There we go.
Okay.
Cordiality. It's
Mhm.
funny that it's when a word doesn't come to me in English, it's because it's something I haven't experienced as much in English.
Yeah.
um, the cordiality of everybody in Mexico and moving down through Latin America was something I was already getting like used to, as compared to New York, where it's just people. It's not a city where people are famous for their cordiality.
Friendliness?
They're friendly, yeah, let's say. So I was already used to the fact that people were friendly, and by extension, I have to be friendly. I
Mhm.
can't walk around being a jerk
Yeah.
to everyone who's super nice to me.
Mhm.
So I had already gotten used to that. From living in the Middle East, I had already gotten used to the, let's say, relaxed attitude towards time. Um, what I mean by that is that I think growing up in the U.S., especially on the East Coast, living in cities and living on the East Coast, everyone's in a rush, 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 rush,
Uh-huh.
rush, 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 and that's almost seen as, I don't know. My opinion on it is that if you are important, you're in a rush,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
um, in the U.S. Whereas if you go to other countries, especially in the Middle East, it's like, I'm important, therefore I will never be in a rush.
Uh-huh.
I'm too important to rush. You know what I mean? So I gotten used to this.
Yeah. Okay, I decided. Mhm.
Yeah, I gotten used to this style of don't rush. It's not going to get anything done. Nothing's. It's you're going to just make mistakes. And so I am kind of used to it, but I'm still at my core, from the United States. So sometimes I'm like, can you move it?
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah.
But
Uh-huh.
there are two sides to the story, which is that nobody tells me to move it. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Okay. Mhm. Yeah.
so which is great. So nobody's stressing me out in that regard. So I really can't complain. I can't say, well, come on and move it because when it's time for me to move it, nobody's telling me to move it. So we're all
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
relaxed.
Yeah, everything's chill. Yeah.
Exactly.
So that's the biggest difference. That was the biggest culture shock. I mean, that's not even a shock, right? That's just like, hey, this is nice. It's like the opposite of shock.
I would say it is nice, but sometimes it can be maddening when it's something extremely urgent or important, like visas.
Paperwork.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Uh-huh. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of dramatic, but even still, I have literally thrown myself on the sidewalk outside of immigration in tears because
Oh no.
problems with immigration, especially because I
Mm-hmm.
got my marriage visa during the pandemic. So just imagine how
Yeah,
fun that
this
was.
was really slow.
It
Yes.
was it was slow and it was just disorganized, and I think
Mm-hmm.
the entire world was disorganized, but it was just this, going to the office and them saying one thing and coming back and them saying another thing, and every day the law was changing, and "Oh, why didn't you know the law changed? How am I going to know?" So just that kind of frustration.
Mm-hmm.
um, that was pretty intense. That was so stuff like that, because if you dared to do something like that in the US, people would just freak out on you. Like, how dare you change the rule without having it plastered on your
Yeah.
website and this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
And here it's like, yeah, the rule changed. The rules can change. Don't you know
Mm-hmm.
that? So, or in the US, it's like, how dare you? You have to tell me 10 times that you changed the rule.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's frustrating. I can imagine. for the visa thing. That must have been.
It was frustrating, but and then another thing though to talk about other kind of cultural differences, I would say a big shock has been the food for sure. So a lot of people don't know very much.
In a good way or in a bad way?
Um, well, it's funny. I would say at the beginning in a bad way, and now I pretty much like it, but it took a long time. And yeah, a lot of people don't know too much about Colombian food, and it depends where you are. Yeah, it depends where you are in the country. It's different in different areas of the country, different zones. But in my zone, which is my department is called Antioquia, which is where Medellin is, and most of the food is pretty plain. There's very little spices. There are very little spices used. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much every meal has something called an arepa, which is it's like how to explain it. The closest thing people might know, it's like a tortilla, but it's bigger, like it's fluffier.
Thicker, yes.
It's not bendable, and it's made from white flour.
Mm-hmm.
And the first time I had it, I thought, was this? Did I accidentally eat like the napkin? Like what is going on? And I'm sorry if any of my friends like go
Didn't
places.
want to offend
Yeah, that
anyone.
was terrible.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you go places and they have like decorative things you're not supposed to eat. I was like, did
Yeah.
I
Uh-huh.
accidentally
Yeah, eat some cardboard.
like the paperweight? Like what's going on? And no, that's really how it tastes. But once you have one that's really good, that's kind of like burnt, then it tastes better. So that's good.
Okay, then you have the burnt flavor.
Yeah, so there's that. But it really is an adjustment. You know, it's not something people are used to having. So here we have the basic ones. They're called, what are they called? Arepa de harina. I think like it's just a white flour arepa.
Mm-hmm.
There's another
Yeah.
one called arepa de choclo, which is a little bit tastier. It tastes more like cornbread, so that's
Okay.
more
A little
interesting.
bit sweeter.
Mhm. So
Yeah.
it's a lot of meats as well. Um, which I didn't like at first because when I moved here, I was
Mm.
more or less vegetarian, and now I'm
Yeah.
very
Okay.
less carnivore, so I'm happy about it.
Yeah. Okay. So you adjust to
Mhm.
what you get, right? And I mean, and is there anything that you miss?
A few things I would say coming from New York City to Medellin, I definitely miss all of the cultural things that you have in New York. Now, saying that,
Mm-hmm.
it's
Because
one of those
so
things.
such a mixed melting pot. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. So, saying that, looking back when I lived in New York, it's not like I was at a concert every week or at a museum every afternoon.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I
Sure.
mean? So it's kind of like maybe I'm just whining, just to whine.
Uh-huh.
But here in this city, we do get some concerts, but not as many as in New York. There are a lot more in the capital in Bogota, so they have
Mm-hmm.
a lot more concerts.
Do you mean like big ones? Like the big of the very famous artists?
Yeah, famous artists, and also kind of these like independent artists.
Okay.
We have a lot of amazing like Colombian punk bands and stuff like that for sure.
Sure. Mhm.
And I go to the
Yeah.
concert. I'm like the oldest one there,
Yeah.
but I don't care.
Yeah.
Um, I don't care. But obviously, those little bands that are based out of Brooklyn or whatever probably are not
Yeah,
going to come
sure.
here. It just doesn't make sense for them.
Yeah, I remember I had a roommate. She was from Spain, and her she was studying. That was back in Germany, and her friend came to visit her, and she also came. It was also from South America somewhere, and she just went to concerts all the time because she said she doesn't get all these like small indie bands that are still like famous, but they're like from the Western world, like England or the US, and they don't tour South America, but they all like come to Europe because it's, I don't know, if they're from England, then it's just like a quick trip, right? So yeah, she just went to concerts all the time.
I can imagine. I can
Yeah.
imagine. Yeah, and so here, I've had to go a few times to Bogota, and so I've actually taken flights to go to concerts, which I never did, in the U.S.
Okay, who do you gonna see?
I've done well, for example, probably the best one I've seen. I'm a huge Radiohead fan.
Okay.
So I flew to Bogota to see them, and actually flew
Mm-hmm.
alone because
Uh-huh.
I have some friends that are fans, but at the time, nobody really wanted to get on a plane and go. So I flew alone. I woke up,
Yeah, that's kind of crazy, right?
yeah, it was wild. And actually, it was such a long, flight. It was raining, it was muddy, and I got there and I was like in a bad mood. And I happened to be next to this couple, these two guys, and it was funny because the one guy really did not care at all, and the other guy was a super fan. So
Uh-huh.
but we were all in a bad mood because of the rain and the weather. But as soon as the band started, we just flipped out. And well, the boyfriend that didn't care,
Yeah.
but the other one, the other guy and I, we literally threw ourselves on the ground in the mud
Yeah.
because we were so happy.
So happy,
So
yeah.
it was super fun.
Yeah, cool. Okay, that turned out great. I never threw myself in the mud for a band. I don't think so.
I
Maybe
recommend
as a
it.
teenager, Backstreet Boys
Oh yeah, for
with
sure. That's
14, different
that's
times.
definitely mud throwing yourself in the ground worthy, I would say.
Yeah. And what do you think is better
What do I think is better in terms of?
of, I mean, life in general? And
Oh, I think a lot of things are better. I mean, there's the economic part, which is tricky because I'm not
hmm
Colombian, right? So I have a different perspective because I you know, work, right now I work internationally, like I work online. So I'm earning money in dollars. So for me, it's an economically great situation. I know that's not true for everyone.
hmm
A taxi driver here can earn sometimes $25 a day,
Yeah,
not a lot of money. So for everybody, no, the economic situation is not great. But for me as an expat earning in a different currency, it is good. So that's something that a lot of expats will say, like, wow, it's so much more affordable here than it is back home. So that's a
sure.
great thing. The weather, I love the weather, and
Yeah, you have a big smile on your face.
I just love it. And I think that there's so many things that you can change in your life. You can change your job. Usually, you can change. You can find friends. You can, if you don't like the food, you can cook food, but you can't change the weather.
Yeah.
So, for me, the weather is really one of the most important things when deciding,
Mhm.
where you want to live. So the weather is just
Mhm.
amazing. I love that I don't have to have four seasons of clothes. you know,
Yeah.
like in New York.
Do you miss the Four Seasons though sometimes?
It's funny. I don't necessarily miss it. What I what I struggle with is knowing what the hell month it is.
No, okay, sure. I mean, yeah. Everything feels the same, right? It's always May.
It's true. Like I literally, because every day is the same sunrise and sunset, same. And we don't have the four seasons. We have rainy season and dry season, and we have two of those a year.
Okay.
However, this year it's a little screwy, so it's not even following that pattern. So it's kind of it's kind of deciding what it wants to do. But yeah, I often forget what month it is. I'm like, is it Christmas? Like,
Oh, yeah, right. Christmas doesn't even feel like Christmas.
Christmas is super funny, and people here have Christmas trees, but they're artificial generally. It's hard.
Sure,
It's
yeah.
hard to get a
Because
real.
you don't have those
Yeah,
furs.
yeah. I mean, we are weird. This country not weird. Weird is the wrong word. We have so much biodiversity in terms of flora and fauna.
Yeah.
So you can actually get a Christmas tree if you want, but
Yeah.
it's gonna be kind of expensive to get it in, and this, that, and the other. So most people just use artificial trees. Yeah.
Or just use your palm tree. I mean, that's what people do here too, right? They just put their lights on any tree. It looks nice no matter what. Doesn't need to be like a Christmas tree.
It's true. It's true. So it's weird. It's weird not knowing, what day is it, what month is it, what year is it. That's something I have to actually look at the calendar. Or I won't have any idea where where we are in the year. Um,
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
but I love it. And then other things that I like about, I would say about Colombia in general is that, like I said, it's a natural kind of paradise, really. So
Okay.
just walking around, even though I live in a city, just walking around the city, and it's a densely populated city, there are wild plants, orchids, orchids that are growing naturally. You can never see that in the US unless you're in Hawaii or something. Um,
Well, I have one in my kitchen.
oh, great. Okay, so
Small one, right?
I probably came from Colombia. I wouldn't be surprised.
Maybe, yeah.
um,
My husband's coworker, he's also from Colombia, and sometimes he works from Colombia because like they can do it like work a month from wherever you want to do it. And like he sends pictures, and oh my god, like it's so green. Like, why do you ever want to come back? It's really
it,
paradise.
and it's funny how that works because I feel like that too. Like, oh my gosh, it's so green. And my husband is almost the opposite. He's like, ugh, everything's so green. He's like,
Ah,
because
really? I think it's whatever you're used to, right?
yeah.
I mean, like if it's not your everyday, then it's like wow.
So we're still working on our my project with my husband. My husband's never seen autumn leaves in person, so we're trying to do
Ah,
that.
that is so interesting. It's like something I would never think, but yeah, sure.
He's been to the U.S. a million times, but he just never at that time. So we're gonna try to time it so we could get the autumn leaves. Yeah.
For sure. Like you have to go to somewhere where it's like really strong, like New England somewhere, up north Maine or something like that.
I think, or maybe go. How could we do it? We could try to fly there somewhere where it starts early, and then if we manage to miss it, we could keep
Yeah.
following it until we find.
Yeah, so just have 3 months of fall.
Yeah,
And
that'd be great.
and then he can experience Halloween too.
Oh yeah, it's true. Yeah, Halloween. It's not so big here in my city, but
I'm sure. Mhm.
it's huge in the capital. Actually, the capital is pretty big. Yeah.
Ah, okay.
So Halloween here, but it definitely happens. I mean, people definitely dress up at their offices and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Kids definitely dress up. It's not such a big deal like in the US. I feel like it's like
Yeah,
a
yeah, yeah,
big
sure.
deal.
I mean, before I came to the US, it was not a big deal for me
Mm,
either. But like now I love it. It's like the best month, October. Hello, I'm all for
I
it.
officially
But in the beginning, I was like, sure, whatever. Because in Germany, we don't really celebrate it. But I think now everything is so fast with the internet. It's getting bigger and bigger.
it's true. It's true. Yeah. Yeah. You have to. Yeah. You're American now. You have to celebrate Halloween.
Yeah, exactly. But Halloween is great. Yes, I love it. All the decorations, that's the best part.
Yeah, for sure. Oh my gosh. So let's see. Yeah, but apart from that, we have a lot of green spaces, obviously, and we even have a desert, like it's a high altitude desert. And since we're a mountainous country, you can decide
Mhm.
whatever climate you want, basically, and you can go there and have that climate.
Right, yeah. So sometimes it's really like humid and sticky
Not where I live.
and
Not
hot.
where I live.
Yeah,
It
not where you live, but in general in
depends where you go.
Colombia.
So if you go, for example, if you go to the Magdalena River, like there's a city called Mompos, or Mompox, if you want to say it in English.
Uh-huh.
And
Uh-huh.
that I went there and I don't know how I survived because it was
Oh.
so humid and there's so many mosquitoes.
Oh yeah,
Luckily,
fun.
living in Dubai prepared me for that of knowing that like you're not going to die, but it's humid.
But
Um,
it's not nice, yeah.
but it's beautiful. So I wound up having to get up early and then just sleep through the afternoon and then get up again, which is what
Mhm.
everyone does there, basically, what most people do there.
Yeah.
Um, or you can go, to the ocean and it's going to be humid, but you're by the ocean, so it's not so bad. Or you can go up into the mountains, and I don't think we have too much snow really. It's hardly ever gets that cold anywhere, but you can get pretty close to seeing some snow if you want.
Yeah. That sounds beautiful. Would you ever consider moving back though?
No,
No.
I don't think so. I don't know. Um, I was recently in Texas. I was there for a nutrition conference, and I felt this, twang of like, oh, what if I moved to Texas? Like everyone's so.
That's where I am.
Oh, really? Where are you?
I'm just
Are you in?
in Austin.
You're in. Oh, that's where I was. Oh, okay. So why not? Ooh, tell me why
I
shouldn't I move to
mean,
Austin?
when well, the thing is, I really liked Austin before I moved there. I was in California before, and when And I visited Austin like 2 or 3 times before that. And I always really liked it because, like, you have fun things to do. The river is so nice. People go, like, whatever, paddleboarding or kayaking, and you have a few nice restaurants. Everything looks so fun. But that's all like South Austin or like the middle of Austin. But this is not where you can live, right? Like all the affordable places are like further north, and it's so boring there. Everything is just one strip mall, and before we moved here, I was already in that place where, like, hey, I kind of want to get rid of my car. I'm so sick of driving. And then we were here, and I was dependent on my car. I was like, I don't want to drive everywhere. I hate being in the car all the time. I want to be able to ride my bike or walk. So that was really frustrating to me. And also the big difference for me is when you visit versus living, you don't have to deal with the politics. And I'm not a
Yes.
conservative
Like,
person. So,
uh,
and I also have small children in school, and since that shooting happened last year, it's like, no, 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 no. I don't have, I don't know. I'm just angry all the time because of politics, because it's so frustrating.
oh no, I was gonna say, would you say Austin is more like liberal or conservative?
For sure, it's liberal. It's like the liberal bubble in Texas, but like
Mm-hmm.
still we're like further north, we're just like outside of city limits.
Mm-hmm.
And like now it's like really mixed. You have like conservative people, and also like very liberal people. I don't know, but it's like all this political gap that is going on right now is just, I don't know, it's so just really strong, and even when you're in Austin, you sometimes want to get out of the city, and
Mm-hmm.
you have to drive really far, like if you want to see countryside or something, sure, there are state parks, but it's not like wow, mind blowing, it's like if you want to see like really nice countryside, you have to drive really far or you have to fly.
Oh, okay, I understand. Oh, okay. So it is one of those places that's different when you're visiting and when you're living there.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, also when we were moving here 3.5 years ago, so it was before Roe fell, you know it
Okay.
raising a girl in Texas when you're not a conservative person is to me really frustrating and hard. So, yeah.
Mhm. And it's interesting what you say about Roe versus Wade. Like I kind of burnt out on politics
Yeah.
after but I will say that the funny thing is that right after I forget if it was right after or right before, but right around the same time is when they legalized abortion in Colombia.
Mhm.
And I was
Yeah.
like, wait a minute.
Yeah, I know. Like, whoops, you just switched.
Because we have this reputation and we are still, in general, a very Catholic
Mhm.
country. I mean, I just moved to this new apartment. There's a little rosary sticker on the
Yeah.
door. And I was like, oh, please don't paint over it. I think it's cute. My husband's like, we're painting over it. Oh my God, I hope my mother-in-law doesn't hear that. But,
Yeah.
but so it's Catholicism is here.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah, it's
everywhere
big.
you
Yeah.
look in Colombia. And yet we have legalized abortion. And then meanwhile, in the US, it's like, no, never mind, you can't do this anymore in half the country.
Yeah. It's
So I don't know.
Yeah, the
I
rest
think
of the world is moving forward, but here in some states, it's they're just whatever. They want to go back to the past.
it's it's wild. It's really wild what's happening. I don't think anybody saw that coming really. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, when I moved here 10 years ago, I mean, I also didn't choose Texas then, but I was like, yeah, this is so cool. Like, I don't know, being in the Bay Area in California, you felt like you were in the future kind of, because already 10 years ago, a lot of people drove electric cars and the internet, and you had like free Wi-Fi everywhere. It was like so different. It was so forward, and
right,
political wise, it was also very liberal. And also, I mean, like I didn't have kids then, so it was different. I didn't have to worry about things. So
right. It's
yeah,
true. It's true. Yeah, that's the thing about the US. It's really, 50 different
yeah, it
countries.
really depends where you are.
Mhm.
It's
It's
such a big country, right?
It's true. I was explaining that to my in-laws the other day. They were like, "Well, from where you used to live, since I
Uh-huh.
was in Austin for this conference, they were like, where you used to live in New York to get to Austin, how long is it?" And I was like, maybe 2 days in car
Yeah.
by the
Uh-huh.
2 days by car. Two
Yeah.
days. Are there a lot of mountains?
No,
No.
I know. Yeah.
That's far.
It is a long drive. Yeah, for sure. It is 2 days. Yeah. With a break.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they
But
just kind of yeah, exactly. And their minds were just blown. I mean, here it's if it's hard to get somewhere, it's because there's no road or because there's a mountain.
mhm.
Not because it's so far.
Is there anything that still drives you nuts? Or I mean, like, is there anything it's hard for you to comprehend?
One thing that is really different here in Colombia is that families are so important. Family is everything in Colombia.
Mm-hmm.
And, I grew up, my dad was an immigrant. My mom left her hometown. Then they had me. I left. Of course, they had a fit. They were like, "Why are you leaving?" I'm like, "Well, you left." So, but,
Yeah.
you know, obviously, family, never mind what I say, I left my family. I don't
Yeah.
live in the same place as my family. Um, and here, a lot of people see their parents every Sunday if they don't still live with them. A lot of people still live
Mm-hmm.
with their parents, well
Okay.
into adulthood. If they don't, they'll try to visit them every single Sunday. It's not uncommon to call your family every single day. That's
Mm-hmm.
normal here. And so for me, it's just a shock. It's like, you just talked to these people yesterday. Like, what
Yeah.
could you
Okay.
possibly have to
uh-huh.
say? That's just the way it is. And so I don't know, it's just very different for me. And so it's been an adjustment, understanding that I have a family of in-laws. I have to be part of that family. It's not optional. So
Uh-huh.
I,
Do your in-laws live in Medellin? Did I say it correctly?
yeah, they only live a few minutes away. So we're able to see them, quite frequently,
Okay.
and we get along really well. They're hilarious. Yeah, but and so it's not like, oh, I don't want to see them. Obviously, I want to see them. It's just something that was never part of my
Right.
routine, before of like, so it's something that you have to put it in the weekly schedule. No, this week I'm probably going to see my husband's family, my family, or if not this week, next week. So it's something that I
Mm-hmm.
have to like remember to leave space for on the calendar because it's going to happen
Yeah.
whether I want it to or not.
Yeah. And what about like making friends? Do you have a lot of friends? I mean, because it's always harder making friends as an adult in general, and then as an expat, there are like a lot of problems coming with
Yeah.
that sometimes.
Yeah, it's actually quite an interesting question because when I first got here, it was so easy. It was so easy to make friends. I was, not working so hard as partying all the time, going out to events, going to language exchanges, and it was so easy to make just a ton of friends. The pandemic
Oh,
happened,
right.
and I lost touch with a lot of people. We had one of the strictest lockdowns in the world, and during that time, I got married, and we moved away from a little bit further from the city.
I
So
see.
I had a couple of years where, yes, I have friends, but I didn't see them
Yeah, yeah,
as much.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And so now we've moved back into the city and hanging out with my friends more. And I'm hoping to kind of meet some new people just because a lot of my expat friends have gone. So I have my Colombian friends
Mm-hmm.
still, but I kind of miss having a few more expat friends
Yeah.
just to know what's going on in the US,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah. You
and
want
things
to
like
share some holidays?
that. Yeah, holidays, things like that. And then, my Spanish is pretty good, but sometimes I don't know if this has happened to you when you're really tired and or something, or you're really emotional. Let's say you have a problem, you just want to really talk about it. It's hard to talk about it in your second language, or
Yeah.
So most of the time, I'm happy to speak Spanish, and I prefer speaking Spanish. And if
Mm-hmm.
somebody tries to speak to me in English, I'm like, no, let's speak Spanish. But occasionally you're just like, oh, I just want to speak my first language. I don't want to think about the verbs and the pronunciation.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to use all of my brain right now.
Yeah. Do you also have it sometimes that no word is coming out? Like you have it kind of stuck in your head and you know it, but it doesn't make you the way out of the mouth. And then it's like, sorry, I don't know the word, but it doesn't matter which language. Like you cannot speak English and you cannot speak Spanish.
It tends to happen that something will come to me in Spanish instead of English,
Uh-huh.
and obviously vice versa. And it tends to be funny things that don't
Yeah,
translate
yeah.
well. There's a word that's used especially in this state all the time, which is juicioso. Juicioso is like behaving well. Um, so it's like if somebody's like, "Oh yeah, today I woke up at 6 a.m. I
Uh-huh.
cleaned the house, and then I did all my studying," and they say, "Oh wow, okay, juicioso," right? Like what a kind of studious,
Yeah,
good,
uh-huh.
proper person you are. But we don't really, it doesn't really translate. So I'm always
Yeah.
like, that word's like always on the tip of my tongue. Okay, wait, juicioso. No, wait. What, how?
Do you have like one funny example that you can share that just was so different culture-wise or
I have a language
Uh-huh, yeah.
issue. Okay. Um, so I would say that this didn't happen in Colombia. This happened on the way down to Colombia when I was on the bike still. So we were in, I believe it was Guatemala,
Mhm.
and we had been scuba diving, not scuba diving, we'd been snorkeling a lot. And we were just, for whatever reason, always in a rush. I always felt like there was never, it was weird. We were on vacation, but I felt like there was no time. So I wound up, swimming and then just kind of tying my hair back, not combing it, and doing that a couple times. And if you have curly hair and you do that a few times, eventually you will just have one big
Uh-huh.
knot of
Yeah.
hair. So one day I'm trying to comb my hair and I realized I literally can't get the comb through it. So I just got a pair of scissors out and just hacked the whole thing off. Okay, I'm gonna just chop it all off and then I'll go to the hairdresser and they'll fix it for me.
Uh-huh.
So
Oh
I
god.
did, chopped it off. And then a couple days later, I went to this, hairdresser in the middle of a mall somewhere. I don't know. I didn't know. It was the first one
Uh-huh.
I saw. Um, and, she's starting and, my hair looks crazy because I
Yeah,
just,
just
just
cut
hacked
it
it
off
off.
somehow.
So I was trying to explain to her what had happened so that she didn't think I was just this strange
Yeah.
person who went around chopping my hair off. And so what I tried to say in Spanish was I had to cut it myself because I hadn't combed it for a long time.
Yeah.
However, I'm pretty sure that what actually came out was the following. I do it to myself because there is no penis for many times.
Why?
Because strangely, those two phrases in Spanish are quite similar. They sound very, it's
Oh,
very easy
okay.
to mess those up because the word for penis is very similar to the word for comb. And I didn't know how to say it. I cut it
Mm.
myself, so I just said I do it to myself.
Oh god.
So and and she didn't say anything, but I could feel the brush going like in my hair, like her thinking like, who is this crazy chick from the United States? Like, what are they all this crazy there? Like, and I just looked at the floor the whole time. She gave me a terrible
Did she
haircut.
notice right away that you said something totally
I
stupid?
think so because I felt the comb, like I felt the brush going
Uh,
like, and she went
oh,
silent.
same.
I was afraid to look at her after that. And then afterwards, she was like, "Do you like it?" She gave me a horrible
Oh god.
haircut. She was like, "Do you like it?" I was like, "I love it. Best haircut ever." It threw the money on the counter and like, yeah. So that's probably like my most embarrassing Spanish problem. I've had other ones too, but that one definitely takes the cake. I think
Yeah, for sure. Oh god, that's so embarrassing. I'm sorry.
it's true.
I wonder if she still tells a story.
Probably like this girl. And my hair was purple at the time too. Like this girl came in with purple hair and she was talking about masturbation and I didn't know what to say. But it's been fun. I don't know if you've had this experience too, but there's something about living in another language that it almost feels like you're reborn in a way. It's like you get to re-experience life. I don't know.
Do you do you also sometimes think you have you are a different person or you have like your character is different just because you choose different wording or you put a different tone to your sentences?
I think so too. I mean, I got to work on my Spanish still. For some reason, people say I sound like a little girl when I speak Spanish,
Uh,
so I got to work on that. But I do sound very like innocent and like
yeah.
and I don't know, naive or whatever in Spanish. And um, the Colombian accent in and of itself is considered one of the most beautiful accents in
Oh,
Spanish.
okay. I did not know this.
So even if you listen to songs, they'll say like, "I like the Colombian girl's accent," especially for the girls.
Uh-huh.
So it's considered this like very like beautiful, almost sing-songy kind of accent. So when I speak Spanish, I feel just like, yeah, I'm so pretty,
Okay.
so it's fun in that way.
Yeah, so that was Julie's story. Pretty cool to go on such an adventurous bike ride. What an outcome. And if you wondered what happened to all her stuff before the trip, so she and her ex husband managed to sell almost everything, and the rest is in her mother's basement. Julie also has her own podcast and YouTube channel, and she will explain it here in the end so she can tell you a little bit about it. Yeah, and I would like to hear from you. You can always reach out to me at worldscollide123pod@gmail.com or find me on Instagram at worldscollidepod. It's just one word. And I will put all the information into the show notes. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And I also hope that you will listen in next time. Bye bye.
I have a YouTube channel. Right now it's just audio. So hopefully I'm going to bite the bullet, decorate my office and start recording video. Right now it's just audio, and it's also on Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, like all that stuff. And so what I talk about is, so what my new job is after leaving English teaching is that I work as a holistic health coach specializing in helping women with ADHD. So, oh my God, this is complicated, but basically I combine ADHD coaching with health coaching and also the use of therapeutic diets. So there are diets that have been shown to help greatly with mental health, as well as physical health. So I work on that. So on my YouTube channel, we talk about ADHD, and we talk about nutrition, especially things like the ketogenic diet, which is my favorite diet, and ways help. Ways that can help with all that good stuff. So that's mainly what I talk about. Yeah, and also it's called Julie Sad Wellness, and sad is spelled with 2 A's.